It's not what it looks like. Anyways, grab a blanket, turn off your lights for true scary webcam horror stories. Tape on the webcam. This is my first post to Reddit. Be nice to me. About a year or so ago, I was sitting on my couch watching TV, How It's Made or something, when my house phone received a call. We use Comcast, so the caller ID was shown on the screen. The caller ID shown was our own house phone number. I was completely freaked out. There was no doubt it was the house phone number. I was out to the back porch, where my dad was on the phone with a mystery caller. And he says, "Who is this?" "Oh yeah, really? What's the wall color then?" Then, his face turns completely pale. He yells out, "Leave our family alone!" and hangs up. He told me the caller was some creepy Arabic-sounding guy, and said he was watching me, and they were in our bathroom. So my dad asked what the color looked like, so they could prove their statement. They said, yellow tile, which was correct. My dad told me that they said they were coming to kill me and my little sisters. He searched the bathroom for cameras, and after finding none, we later found out they probably hacked into my built-in webcam on my laptop and were watching me like that. I like to watch YouTube while I'm in the bathroom. Naturally, I put tape on my webcam, so that hopefully fixed the problem. No one ever came here and killed us all, and we don't know how they called our house phone from our own house phone number. And to this day, I still have that same piece of tape on my webcam. So, creepy Arabic phone guy, let's not meet. Psycho Online Hunter. Here it goes. I've been wanting to share my story for a while now, but had to gain up the courage to talk about it. It really shook me up, and though it's been a few years now, I'm still affected by it at times, and keep thinking how lucky I am he didn't choose me. I'm a regular social media user, primarily on art and music communities, and this is where it all started, online, in early 2014. My favorite community I shall call Greensplat, who I had been a member of for a few years at that point, was my favorite spot to post art and share music to other individuals who share the same interest as my own. Privacy reasons and concerns, my account was set to private and only accepted fellow splatters and members who could view my own personal page. I learned early on there were a lot of creeps and weirdos on the net, and filtered out as many by keeping my splatter group small. Aside from a few, most conversations were kept in public viewing that I had with most members. A few splatters were an exception, and I chatted with them on private chat from time to time, but then he popped up. I had recently added this new splatter to be able to view my content on my page. He had passed my filter, and unless he started to give me alarm, he seemed okay to have on there. He private messaged me. We started talking about the community, which lasted for over an hour. I guess you can say we hit it off. It was then after that, we started messaging each other a little more every day. We didn't know each other's names or faces, since we didn't have that information shared online. But after some time, a few months of talking, we exchanged names and decided to have a Skype conversation. That was the first time I saw him, through Webcam. He seemed pretty normal enough. I learned he was currently living in Missouri, but had moved from the UK and was originally from Florida. I marveled at the fact that he lived in the UK before, since I had never left the country myself, and had only really stayed in my state, Texas, at that point in my life. Skype became a regular thing, not every day, but at least once or twice a week for several months. I learned more about him, his interests, his job, his roommates, Ferguson, and all the riots since he lived not too far in St. Louis when they were happening. I learned about how he lived in the UK, he got deported back to the US after a breakup with his girlfriend, and his visa expired. He said he lost everything. Everything he had acquired there was gone. He was at a total loss and was rebuilding his life, sharing an apartment with a guy he knew. He sent me a picture once of a woman he said was a really good friend of his, and one of a little girl he said was his daughter, who was back in Florida. We carried on casually. I ended up opening up to him a lot because at the time, I was going through a loss of my younger brother, who had passed the year before, and a transition spiritually. We talked about that a lot, and he seemed to offer comfort that I felt at the time was genuine. I felt like I developed a real friend of sorts. Later, towards the ending of the year though, our video chats became less and less, until one day, he disappeared completely. No more Skype, no more on our communities, no more messages, just gone. In truth, I did feel a little sad just because we talked well and he never said he was leaving the art community or said goodbye. I had grown accustomed to talking to him at least 2 times a week. He had always said he hated where he was and that he wanted to leave, go somewhere new, go somewhere different. He even said a few times, maybe he should come to Texas and meet me. He thought we would hit it off in person too. I joked back that I'd even buy him a ticket. 4 months passed, when out of the blue I get a message on a posting I did on my online art community from him. It's from his account, but the message is incoherent, incomplete, but a part of me calls me a bitch. It upsets me. I take him off my green splat page and message him privately one last time, asking why he called me such a name out of nowhere after not talking to me for months now. He responds a few days later and says that he is too crazy and that he can't talk to me because of it, 'cause he is not good. He then says, "By the way, I don't like your red hair. It looked better darker." And that was the last message I ever received from him. His comment about my hair, I assumed, was because he saw me with dark hair when we used to Skype, but then when he resurfaced on my green splat months later, I had a picture of myself with dyed red hair. I never talked to him again and banned him after those last messages. Time had passed, and it's around November 2015. Almost a year since I last got those messages from him. A lot has happened to me in my own personal life. Therapy, getting out of an abusive relationship 6 months before, trying to heal completely from that, when while online, on Greensplat, which I still was using, just not as much, except to use for therapeutic reasons of viewing art. I saw it. I saw it. I could not believe what I was reading and the pic attached to it. And then I saw staring back at me, it was him, Michael, the Splatter member I had talked to for several months in 2014, his mugshot. I stopped in my tracks as I was scrolling through my feed and his pic came upon my screen. I almost did not recognize him, but it was him. He looked terrible, but mostly frightening, dangerous, and crazy. I looked up at the caption to read, and as I did, I felt the hair stand up on the back of my neck. My skin went pale. I searched his name on Google as the Splatter poster of his pic said to do. So many results and hits came in. It was true, multiple arrests, different mugshots spanning from at least a decade, fugitive on the run. After finding this out, I went back and messaged the Splatter member privately who posted about Michael. She didn't say what he did on her post, but asked if anyone had any contact with him or talked to him on the community since he had been a member to contact her. I messaged her and told her I knew him and how I used to talk to him in 2014. That is when she revealed everything to me about his alcohol, drug use, temper, and violence. She said that he was a career criminal on the run. He would skip town to avoid persecution for his crimes. He went to jail for drug charges. But the serious was acts of violence towards women. She was a victim of his, and was in the process of going to court for the charges against him by her. She told me her story about how she had met him on the Greensplat art community, how they started talking casually after he just seemed to pop out of nowhere. She lived alone with her elderly mother, who she would take care of while herself was handicapped with a medical condition. She couldn't really have a normal social life because of it, so when Michael came around, they seemed to hit it off, and they started an online relationship. Eventually, Michael persuaded her to buy him a bus ticket to come stay with her in Alabama and her sick mother. He told her he loved her and took advantage of her loneliness, just to ease his way inside her life and home. Once he arrived, she said that he lived with her for a few months, and everything was going great. He did things around the house, was looking for work, was nice to her and her mother. She felt happy, but only for a while, until all of a sudden, she said he started drinking heavy, where he would become cold, distant, and silent. She said his eyes would always be bloodshot. He stopped looking for work and stopped doing things around the house. He stole some things. She started seeing how he was, and quickly she knew she had made a mistake letting him into her home. Then one night, as she was sleeping, she woke up suddenly and sat up in her bed as an eerie feeling came over her. She didn't know why she felt that way, and was trying to gather her sense of vision from just waking up, when all of a sudden, a figure jumped on top of her and tried strangling her. She broke free, ran to a neighbor's to call for help. When police arrived, he was gone, but she knew it was him, Michael, 'cause she saw his face, his eyes. He was picked up the next day and was taken in on assault and strangulation. It was then she herself learned of his history of extreme violence against women. After that, she told me she was going to therapy and was traumatized by the attack. When I told her the details of my interaction with him, we learned he was talking to us at the same time, as well as other women in other states. We put together that he was hunting, trying to find another woman to trick, to get close to lure in his trap and victimize. She told me that she had seen a picture of me because he had shown it to her, and when she asked who I was, he said an old friend. I mentioned the picture he had showed me of a woman one time. I described it, and she said that that was a picture of her. So he showed both of us a picture of each other. Talking to her more and more, and seeing the trauma she was going through, I felt guilt. I realized the time he stopped talking to me was when he went down to visit her. That is why he went missing. I realized he was weighing his options between us and other people. He mentioned coming to Texas, and I joked about buying him a ticket, but for some reason, he never pressured me or tried persuading me like he did to her. Maybe she seemed easier to get to. I want to say that I wouldn't have sent him one, but what if he had pressured me somehow? Especially then, I was in a vulnerable state with the death of my brother. It's scary to think that not only did I talk, engage, laugh, share personal things with such an individual, but the fact I may have come face to face with one who would have probably tried to physically harm, or worse, kill me. Looking back, I remember one Skype chat in particular. He had been drinking while we talked. I remember at one point he had a look on his face. His eyes were bloodshot, and he grew quiet, yet his face looked almost angry or rage-filled. I commented on it, and he's just said it was a long day. We ended the chat soon after because he almost seemed in another state, like darkness void, which I attributed to the alcohol, but maybe it was just the madness in him. Justice system fails. Last I heard, he was back out on the streets. I also reflect on his red hair comment on me. It was random, but I learned from the splatter poster he victimized that he had a deep fondness for red-haired women, and that she had red hair. I wonder if he had something against women with that color of hair even more, like a love-hate thing. Skype me. It's a common theme for one to say that in the years of middle school are ones of pure and unadulterated awkwardness, as we struggle to cope and develop into young adults capable of braving reality outside of school walls. Like most people, I would claim that my middle school years were not that of a particularly awful experience. I fought to be a conformist and a nonconformist. While trying to develop and maintain friendship I treasure in grades 1 through 5. my 7th and 8th grade year being particularly horrific, due to the fact that I went through that dreaded phase known on Tumblr as the RAR means I love you in dinosaur, and screamo metal music is my life. Lols, I'm so random and my hair is pink 11. At the time, I was an overweight, pimply child who had little to no self-confidence and wanted badly for a member of the opposite sex to find me attractive. In the summer prior to 9th grade, I got my wish. But they say, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. At the time, I was moving to a different state. My life was in crumbles. My parents had just gotten a divorce, and I would have to be leaving the few people I truly cared about, and the only place I'd ever known as home. So one evening, as I sat in my new house and fiddled around on Facebook, my small mailbox lit red informing me I got a message. It was a boy I'd gone to school with, though I never truly made it my effort to befriend him because there was an age difference between us, and I was still horrifically awkward about conversations with those who were not in my friend group. Curious as to why he'd suddenly decide to strike conversation with the likes of me, I replied a simple greeting. That is when the worst 2 years of my life began to unfold. At first, the boy seemed kind. We were both hideously awkward and had similar tastes. It was a pleasant friendship, but the sole communication was through Facebook Messenger. At the time, my cell phone rights were restricted due to the move, and I was 90% positive the boy did not own a mobile phone, so we only spoke in the evenings when I was allowed computer privileges. Summer ended, as it always does, and school was back in session. I had finally begun to shed the weight I carried from childhood and began thinning out. I allowed my hair to grow back after a horrendous mistake of cutting it to resemble some Japanese singer, and dyed it back to a color that was considered normal. I began selling with a decent group of friends, and all was going well, until the boy's attitude turned sour. He'd been giving me the cold shoulder. At first, I was hurt. It couldn't be helped that I needed to devote my time to school more than the internet, but he began to accuse me of using him. Until this day, I have no clue at what I used him for. After long messages of assurance, I finally settled him down, and we continued our conversations as if nothing had ever happened. It was at this point I should have started noticing red flags. It was the night that I got my first webcam for my dated laptop that I regret most of all my choices in my life. I'd installed Skype and made a Facebook status asking for contact names. Within seconds of that status, my notifications lit red with a comment. The boy had been the sole commenter, and I, being the naive little twit I was, added him. I video chatted with the boy for 3 hours. Each time I would try to say my goodbyes, he changed the topic to direct me from ending the call. I felt rather uncomfortable with the entire event and felt true relief when the call finally ended. But that was just the start of it all. To this day, I find my skin crawling when I hear the Skype ding. I wish I could simply say that he was only able to contact me through Skype, but that was not the case. Back home, he was able to get my new cell phone number from a friend who to this day still will not confess to doing so. And so began the constant calls and text messages from an array of numbers. Did you know that there are applications where a person is able to get a cell phone number and can phone and text for free? I didn't. I'm in love with you. I don't ever want you to be with someone else. I want you all to myself. Why don't you talk to me? Why don't you love me? You fucking bitch. God, you're a slut. You're fat and ugly. No one but me will ever want you. I know where you live. How would you like it if I came and raped you right now? If you don't love me, I'm going to kill myself. The blood will be on your hands. These text messages went on for months and months. I couldn't sleep. I lost weight. I had no appetite. I went so far as to delete my Skype and Facebook accounts, but nothing seemed to work. It was a miserable lifestyle. Even still, I refused to tell my parents. They suspected I was being troubled, but had absolutely no idea of the harassment Every time I heard a phone ring, even if it wasn't my own, I would crumble into a trembling mass of tears and anxiety. Okay, maybe not every time, but even still my blood would run cold, and I'd have troubles breathing. Eventually, my mother cornered me, demanding an explanation. I came clean, playing her a particularly hostile voicemail where he threatened to spread my contact information on Omegle. My mother was furious. She snatched my cell phone and called him. She snarled a threat and then called the police. A protection order was put into place, and I again changed my cell phone number. Some people may say this isn't stalking, but I have no other way of classifying my experience. I occasionally return home to visit with friends I left behind. They tell me he's found a new girl. The police have been involved in that case as well. Chills continue to run down my spine each time I hear the words, Skype me.